So for anybody who just popped in, we're just hanging out. We're just friends talking. If you have things you want to talk about the Dhamma practice, the Buddha, feel free to chime in. If not, I'll just lecture about the Dhamma in between the silence. So yeah, we're just hanging out. So feel free to speak whatever's on your mind.
I have something in mind. It's just interesting how I have to catch myself every time I judge myself. I guess sometimes I have a standard in saying, well, I understood the Dhamma enough that judgment won't come because I know it's unproductive. But despite to my best of my understanding, it still comes. And I think the key is just in catching it. I catch so much, and I'm just able to relax.
What are you judging? Nothing much. Are you judging yourself?
It's kind of like the first and second error, kind of similarly, where the first error is me judging myself, and before the second error comes, which is judging myself or judging myself, I have to catch it and just say, yeah, it's all right, everything is okay. Like I can't blame myself too much. This is an old habit of mine. So yeah, I've been doing that a lot. It's almost like it's almost like I come to terms with the fact that it's impossible to catch that first arrow, but I can catch the second arrow. So yeah.
Anybody want to comment on what he was saying about judgment and the arrow analogies?
Sometimes I just like my self-worth doesn't depend on, fill in the blank, what other people think. Doesn't depend on my ability to control circumstances. It doesn't depend on my status or whatever.
Very good. Yes. Anybody else?
Not really, but just I think it's something that's deeply ingrained in everybody's mind. I think we all judge. Maybe some of us tend to judge ourselves in different ways, and maybe we're a bit kinder to ourselves, or maybe we're even judging ourselves a bit overconfidently, which can lead to arrogance and stuff. But I guess it seems like it's deeply inherent in the human condition. I find the practice that we learn from Buddhadasa and Dhammarato, that opportunity to really uproot those unwholesome thoughts and really be proactive in it rather than just noting your judgment. You sort of start to, base a different view of yourself around reality, right? It's not just positive thinking, it's around the actual truth that things are okay in this moment. So that's what helps me, is that it's not just positive thinking, it's actually true if you investigate it at its core. So
yeah, that's well said,
it's definitely something I have to address. Yeah,
because a lot of times the toxic positivity, it's just putting the makeup on the pig, you know what I mean? It's like the makeup's nice, it does make the pig a little prettier, but it's still a pig. But like, we use positivity, but yeah, like you were saying, it's the truth of what's actually going on. Because 9 times out of 10, the truth is there isn't a tiger attacking us, there isn't a bear attacking us, there isn't a person attacking us. Which started, I don't know what that is. But anyways, it's the truth is we're just okay. Everything's fine right where we are, right where we sit. There's nothing to worry about. No place to go, nothing to do.
You could
And
ex-
I like
you
Go
could
ahead, buddy.
you could experience verbal attacks, that type of harsh criticism. I mean, not a physical attack, but kind of an attack on your psychological, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very well said. I think for my condition, there's usually, I said this, I'm kind of really aware of what triggers it. But there's certain situation that could trigger it and certain situation that I won't feel as much judgment as that is used to. I was just thinking like, I was just thinking in terms of the Dharma, is it a skillful thing? Is it a worthwhile thing? Is it worthwhile to think about the situation before it happens? Like for me, it usually happens due to works. It's 9 out of 10 times it's always work, and there's a lot of judgment revolving around that. I'm not sure. I don't think it's skillful, maybe, because just thinking about it is maybe I'm just anticipating bad thing from happening. Maybe I just have to be aware. I'm not sure. Oh, hi, Michael.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, guys. Anybody who's just joining, welcome. Michael, welcome.
Can I? Yeah, I want to ask my question again since Michael is here. I was just thinking, is it skillful or unskillful to contemplate about? It's like playing the tape through the end. Like, let's say, I usually get very triggered when it comes to my work performance. Unfortunately, it's still something deeply rooted. I was just thinking, is it worthwhile to anticipate problem that may occur that may trigger something in me, or should I just don't just let it be? Whatever happens, happens. I don't know. Like in terms of the Dharma, like maybe it's not skillful.
Well, there's a way for that to be skillful, and there's a way for it to be unskillful. It's skillful if you contemplate things that you're still, like when you go to buy a house and you do like an environmental review of the landscape, and it tells you that the house is in a flood zone. And then you decide, okay, I'm not going to buy this house because it's in a flood zone, it's subject to flooding, right? Or you go to buy your beautiful dream homestead in the mountains, and you find out that that area gets wildfire every year. So you think, okay, that's not a good place to buy a house. So contemplating different components of your experience that are still subject to suffering or liable to suffering is good in the sense that you know that there's like work to be done in those areas. But if it just kind of becomes a proliferation of making up potential problems, then it's possible that craving has co-opted the practice in order to keep you, stuck in this cycle of dissatisfaction, because craving, only seeks its own existence, its own perpetuation, and it does that by keeping you in a state of dissatisfaction, keeping you off balance. So yeah, there's a subtle sort of balance point in your question there. As I mentioned before, you can, if you're like contemplating, like in the practice of Maranusati, contemplation of death, when most of the time when we contemplate death, we contemplate our concept of death, and it's not really a real contemplation of death, because the actual experience of dying is like slow degradation of your sense faculties, your memory, losing everything that you've held dear your whole life. So in order to really contemplate death, you have to kind of think about what it's like to lose all of those things bit by bit, to lose your hearing, to lose your vision, to lose your memories, to lose control over caring for the people you love, to and to see how the mind responds to that. You can see where there's like deep clinging still hidden in the mind. But to do that, you need a calm, clear mind to do that. So you don't want to put the cart before the horse. And in the practice that we do in this group here in this Sangha, and that Dhammarato teaches is the noble Dhamma, is to make them, get the mind into a state of satisfaction. And that lines up really well with the 7 enlightenment factors. Get the mind happy and satisfied, and that happy, satisfied mind then sees things more clearly. And then when you see things more clearly, that leads to disenchantment. And then that disenchantment leads to dispassion, and that dispassion leads to relinquishment, or the giving up of ownership of all of these things that you take to be who you are and yours, like me and mine, essentially. So again, it starts with a mind that is confident, happy, satisfied, and clear. And you want to use that mind, Buddhadasa calls that mind the mind that is fit for work. You want to use that mind to then contemplate where you're still liable to suffering.
Yes.
But it's never a bad idea to just remember the simple practice of remembering to be here now, remembering to be satisfied, remembering this is good enough. Because if you keep practicing that will put the mind into a clear state, and that clear seeing will start uprooting that liability to suffering almost on its own. So I would say approach it that way. Don't worry about, don't use worry, because that worry is coming from more of a diluted state than a clear state of seeing things as they are.
Because it's still rooted in dissatisfaction, and the ignorance in thinking dissatisfaction can bring me to satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
If you're looking
Thank
at
you.
the traditional structure, even with stream entry, the 3 lower fetters are broken. Your attachment to rites, rules, and rituals, your attachment to your self-image, the narrative self, or the autobiographical self, as I like to call it, and then doubt about what to do. That's broken. That what needs to be done is to see dissatisfaction and throw it out. But craving and ill will are still left. So even though you have that satisfied mind that no longer identifies with the way things should be or who I think I am, it's still, the old habits will still come up. You still respond to pleasant things with craving and unpleasant things with not liking. So there's still work to be done, but now you have a mind that is fit for work. So if the type of stuff you're worried about as triggers is what you're being concerned with, well, you're just kind of keeping your mind clouded by worrying about them. So I think the best advice is just to kind of go back to the core practice of remembering to be satisfied, remembering that this is good enough, building that new habit, as Dhammarato says, that new habit of being satisfied rather than being dissatisfied, to calm the mind down, clear it up, and then use that clear mind to then see what needs to be uprooted at a deeper level.
Yes. Yeah, understood.
Very good. Anybody else have anything they want to add on that?
What should we talk about today?
Dukkha Nirodha.
Perfect. Is the call being recorded already? I haven't seen it.
Dhammadasa, I feel like you might have good advice to give to the whataboutisms of the mind. You know what I'm talking about? Like when the mind gets satisfied in the early stages of the practice, and then you think, well, what about this? What about that? And, you know, and people, in the case of people who come from a more studious background, I'll say, oh, what about this sutta? Or what about when the Buddha says it this way? Or what about sense restraint? Or what about, you know, what about the precepts? Or what about stream entry? And what about, and then for other people, it's like, well, what about social activism? And what about people in jail? Or, you know, all of those what about that the mind comes up with to keep the mind in the state of dissatisfaction. I feel like that's where I see and hear and have experienced the most hangups in practicing, starting with right view, starting with the supermundane path. I see most people kind of get tripped up in that what about and the but. What would you say to that?
Yeah, there's always, just like there's always a myriad of things to find fault with, there's a myriad of things to ask about, to say, what about this? What about that? And that's the major issue, I would say, with a lot of people, even some seasoned practitioners. Yeah. Just do whatever they want to do. Well, ask mommy. Ask what she wants to do. So there's always a myriad of things to say, but what about this? But what about that? And for the beginners, for the seasoned practitioners, dissatisfaction, dukkha, is wanting things to be different than the way they are, wanting things that we don't have right now. And that, but what about this? But what about that? Is the first step into the realm of samsara, because we're not satisfied with the way things are. We have questions. We have over intellectualizations. We have all these myriad of desires and things. And I like to tell people, can you be okay with the way things are? Can you be okay that you don't have all the answers? Can you be okay that reality doesn't really care about you, doesn't want to give you what you want? Can you be okay that society may look down on you for certain things? Family members, friends may look down on you for trivial, stupid things that don't matter. Classism, racism, sexism, whatever it may be. It could just be your personality, you know. You can't escape this stuff. You can't escape society. The only way you can let it go or escape it is to let it go. Let go of being under the stranglehold of their judgment, the stranglehold of your own judgment, and let things rest gently as they are. Discover your true nature. And I could tell you what your true nature is. Your true nature is not a mystery. It's not a Rubik's Cube. It's just letting things go. That's your true nature. Dhammarato used to say this. He doesn't say it much anymore. Hopefully he'll bring it back. But he used to say, we must cultivate the Teflon mind, like the Teflon pans or the oiled pan or the oiled rock. Everything slips off it. It bounces right off. It slips right off it. So develop a Teflon mind. Oh, I wish I had more answers. Well, who cares? Let it slip right off. Oh, I wish I was this. Slip. Oh, I wish reality was like this. Everything's a Nicha Dukkha Anatta. It's not worth holding on to. Status within a Sangha, status within a society, status within your own mind. It's not important. It's all a joke. Can you be satisfied with four walls in a room by yourself in silence? Can you be satisfied in a forest in silence? Can you be satisfied as a family man or a family woman? Can you be satisfied as the abbot of some Wat or whatever? You know, call yourself whatever the fuck you want. King of France. Can you be satisfied? Titles don't matter. Labels don't matter. Labels, titles, class. This person's better than this person. Just like here now. There's nobody more special than anybody else. We're all the same. We all are Buddhas. We all are enlightened. We're just helping each other get rid of our ignorance of that very particular thing we're talking about. But what about this? But what about that? There is no buts. There's just letting go of all of it. And discovering your true nature. That's what Bodhidharma, the Zen master, the grandfather of all Zen, was famous for bringing Zen Buddhism from India to China. He was all about discovering your true nature.
What was the guy's name?
Bodhidharma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a great book I have of him. It's called The Zen Teachings of Bodhidharma and translated by Red Pine. And it's a great book.
And he had the Shaolin Temple.
Yeah, the Shaolin monks, they claim that their lineage goes back to Bodhidharma. And you could see it too, because he was Indian. And a lot of their, especially in their stretching for their kung fu, it looks very similar to the Hindu yoga of all different types. So it's funny. You could see the stuff if you look with like clear eyes, you know.
Yeah,
everything's related.
A lot of martial arts studios have a picture of Bodhidharma on a wall, even though they don't really follow Buddhism. It's part of the it's part of their lineage, and he has a semi-legendary status, as they refer to it as.
Yeah, he's amazing, and that's why it's good to get involved with people who might be even more recent than the Buddha, even though Bodhidharma's like, I think 500 years or so, maybe 1,000 after Buddha. I'm not quite sure, but we have Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, you know. We have Dhammarato, but also we have this moment right here, right now. And we can discover our true nature right here, right now. Which is complete peace, complete emptiness, complete satisfaction.
According to legend, Buddhadharma, somebody wanted to be his disciple, but he wasn't impressed, or he needed like the guy to show that he was dedicated, so the guy cut off his arm.
Oh yeah.
Wood. He stood out in the snow, and he was out waiting around in the cave all night in the snow, and Buddhadharma said something like, I need to see some blood. So he cut his arm off. Wild story.
And I don't know if it's my Britishness, and we're quite like indirect, right? But he was talking about like being a loser, you know, a winner and a loser. And I remember thinking like, oh, you can't call people losers in like this modern day, right? Like that's not politically correct. And so it took me a while to sort of to gauge it. But what's been really helpful, and I think this comes back to that question on like noting stuff versus making an active change, is it's amazing how when those emotions do come up, you buy into this fact that they are totally justified and that you have a right to feel that way. And so as a result, you don't actually change it. And I shared at the very beginning of this call, I'm actually in bed with fever today. And I noticed it even this morning, like I was in a foul mood, and I thought I've got a right to be in a foul mood, right? Because I'm ill, and of course you have to be in a foul mood when you're ill. Like that's my right. But it was just interesting because you're like, that's just it's my victim mentality, right? I've put two and two together and thought, because I'm sick, I have to also be in a bad mood. And so it's amazing how pervasive that is in all aspects of life. When we get those emotions, we we think they're there for a reason, and that's a justifiable reason, but it's just a fabrication at the end of the day, that we've decided to interpret certain things in such a way, and we take ownership for that. So it's a hard truth. I think this idea, the victim mentality, is a hard truth, but it's incredibly powerful one when it's so empowering, I guess, to really change your mind state and go beyond, because I've been meditating for quite a few years now, but it was a lot more of a passive process in the past, just like accepting feeling crap and just hoping it'll, at some point it'll change. But you can actually be a lot more proactive, and that's been really beneficial.
Love that.
That's good, man. That's good,
Yeah,
dude.
I mean, a lot of sitting meditation is sitting down, feeling sorry for yourself and hoping to feel better. It's on a subtle level. It's sitting down and wanting and waiting. It's like you're waiting for the bus to come, but the bus is not coming because you're not at the bus stop.
Yeah.
But the attitude of being a loser or being a victim, especially nowadays, has so much social capital to it, and being happy is like an offense to people. That's why Dhammarato talks about the idea of you have to work to eat. He's basically saying that we have this idea in our culture that you can't have something you didn't earn. So happiness is the biggest thing, right, in life. And the idea that you can be happy without earning it is like offensive to the rules of our culture. So that's what he's talking about there. And the idea that you have a right to feel sorry for yourself because something bad came up in your life. Well, bad things come up in everybody's lives, and there's always somebody worse off than you. So why sit around feeling like a victim because, some unwanted circumstance arose, by its own cause. And there's a story that I once shared with Dhammarato in regard to the victim versus winner. When I understood it, it's a silly story, and it's like a fable, but it's like a man goes to work every day, and every day at lunch he pulls out his ham sandwich and goes, "Oh man, a ham sandwich again!" And week after week after week at lunch, another ham sandwich. And finally his coworkers say to him, "Why don't you ask your wife to make you a different sandwich?" And the guy goes, "What? I don't have a wife. I make my own sandwiches."
That's hilarious, dude.
That's exactly what the victim's attitude is. Like we experience these moods and emotions and like, poor me, why am I experiencing? And it's like, we're not realizing that we're just like doing that to ourselves. We're not taking responsibility for the fact that we are burying ourselves under a pile of crap instead of seeing the crap as crap and not burying ourselves in it or eating it or whatever metaphor you want to use. Ham sandwich. Make a different sandwich.
That's true, man. We make our own beds and then we lay in them and complain about it.
It's easy to forget that this all refers to internal phenomena, though. It all refers to attitude. It has nothing to do with external conditions. I mean, it has a little bit to do with external conditions. There are external things that you can change if they're unwholesome. But a lot of it is about, I would say 95% of it is about attitude. It's sort of the forerunner to the moods and emotions you experience. If you have an attitude of everything's okay, I could be satisfied with or without that thing, or there's not all problems or stuff that the mind makes up in its essence. If you really have that attitude, the mind inclines towards peace, then your thoughts and your moods will change. You'll be making different sandwiches essentially.
Yes. Yeah, many things will arise and fall. And the Buddha said, we had some issues with the recording or something I saw on the Skype. So for anybody who's watching the video now, if it even gets published to YouTube or uploaded, the Buddha taught one thing and one thing only. Dukkha dukkha nirodha. Letting go, remember to let go, remember to look and change. And just like I'm doing now, remember to look if there's some geese shit. Gently step around it. And don't worry, be happy. And breathe in and relax, and that's all the practice you really need. Everything else is just kind of pissing in the wind, so I thought I'd do a little review.
Everything else is sort of a concession to our habits of wanting things. So, we're given promises of great states of meditation. We're given stories and concepts and ideas to let the mind chew on, because it's used to, as Dhammarato says, life sucks because you're sucking. So you have dukkha because you're wanting, right?
Yeah.
So we're used to sucking. So the Buddha gives us different things to suck on, and all the other Buddhas and teachers in the different traditions, they give us different things to suck on, until we stop wanting things to suck on. That's why when you stop wanting things to suck on, you realize, you don't even need you don't need the teachings. You just need to be okay with reality as it is. It's really just about bringing that fire to a cessation, that fire of wanting. Until you do that, you're going to keep wanting more teachings. You're going to keep wanting more teachers. You're going to keep wanting more things to think about and mull over and do. But, it's just about bringing desire, or dissatisfaction, I should say, to its end. Just being okay with what is. What's freely available, as Dhammarato says, like this breath or this smile, the ability to let go. Those are all freely available right now. And if you can be satisfied with that, then there's nothing else that's needed.
Yeah, developing the Teflon mind of letting everything slip off of your pan, slip off of your oily, slick rock, and just relaxing, just relaxing, just chilling out. And anybody, do you have any last questions before I let you go? Anybody, or any thoughts or whatever?
Not much. I think this talk is so fascinating. I'm just reflecting on. I mentioned this to Dhammarato, is that there's this very dirty pleasure in feeling like a victim. I use dirty, maybe sounds very judgmental, but that's how I feel about it. Like, there's this pleasure in feeling like a victim, and I have to catch myself so often. Like, oh, okay, like it's happening again. Like,
Yeah, that's the name of the game, catching it as it happens, observing it as it appears, as it rises and falls, and saying, aha, I see you, Mara, you little bastard Mara, and then you walk around it. You all have the ability.
Don't put the second order.
Yeah, you all walk outside, you all see shit, you all have the ability to walk around it. You just got to transfer it from the physical reality to in between your ears, and then you're fine. Sound good?
Yes, sound good.
All right, dudes, I love you. Be friends with one another, and go to OpenSanghaFoundation.org, our website. Much peace and love, dudes. Call me if you need me.
It was good seeing you.
Thank you. So, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, dudes.